The following is a presentation of Unidentified Entertainment and 22nd Century Radio. Manassas, Fairfax, Washington, D.C.
Exopolitics and Ufology, Religion and Science, Time and Space. Hosted by Mike Smith.
I'm in the process of going to get fuel for my gas.
Find us on the internet, timeandspaceus. And don't forget, download our free smartphone app.
Do you look in the sky a lot?
Find us on the internet, timeandspaceus, and Time and Space Radio Show on Facebook.
Do you look in the sky a lot?
You're listening to Time and Space on 22nd Century Radio.
The Chinese have a space program now. It's not like the U.S. space program, because in the Chinese space program, Tang is one of the astronauts.
Welcome back. I'm just sort of falling into an interview here with a panel, if you will, of experts. Tomorrow's the 2012 Mysteries of Space and Sky Conference. We did this a couple of years ago, and are all four of you speaking at? Or you just came up to kind of help?
I'm actually an organizer, so I'm checking people in.
All right,
I might be on the microphone every.
He'll be filling in.
When needed. So
authors, researchers. Who knows who else would walk through the door? But since I've got just the group of you here, I'll do introductions just very quickly as we can. But I'll give you a discussion topic as well. And just real quick, I'd love to get some feedback, because it was something that's been dragging on for years and years and just finally broke. First, Cameron Pack, assistant director for MUFON in the state of Virginia, right?
Yes.
Yes. Again, great to finally meet you, because I'd heard your name so many times.
No problem.
And sir, you're speaking tomorrow also? Is that right? And it's Jimmy.
Well, on the program it's B. They don't give my last name, because when I first spoke, I knew it was going to ruffle some feathers.
Fair enough.
But it's Bonavita.
Okay.
That's my last name.
Very good.
And
former law enforcement in the Virginia Beach
I
area?
retired from Virginia Beach, and also retired.
That actual police department, right?
Yeah, Virginia Beach Police Department.
Okay.
Retired as an MPO, and I retired. I'm a retired Department of Defense conservation police officer, game warden.
Very good.
Federal, and I've also been a state game warden, and now I'm working as a environmental.
Okay.
I call it environmental weenie. I'm the actual description would be an installation environmental advisor. I'm a liaison between the EPA and DEQ, which is the Virginia EPA, and the Department of Defense.
Gotcha. And then Mr. and Mrs.
Scott and Suzanne Ramsey.
Ramsey. And the book that he won't let go of, which I'm going to wrestle away from you.
I'm a very quick reader. I'm sitting here absorbing a lot of this.
On the Aztec case, the Aztec UFO case, this is one that's one of these mysterious ones parallel to Roswell. I hate to bring it up, but that's the touchstone everybody seems to know about. Aztec, however, has been covered a couple times in books. You mentioned a couple books that have been written, but other specials occasionally where they get into detail about Roswell. And you'll be speaking on some of these findings tomorrow that you've released in the book. Is that right? Can you give us just a quick teaser on something that you're just excited to get to talk about?
Go ahead.
Even if it's not a major touchstone, something that jumped out for you.
My portion is really the impact that it's had on every person in this world, whether you've known about the Aztec Incident or not.
Yeah.
That is the part that is so compelling to me. I am just fascinated by just how it's impacted.
Can you explain that just very quickly? I mean,
come tomorrow. Come tomorrow.
Yes, I know, and I'd love to be here. Believe me, I'd love to be here.
You're not going to be here?
No, I'm getting ready to travel out tomorrow. No, but I mean, I just wonder what you mean by that. That it's touched so many people.
Well, I think technologically, certainly, because it was one of the early only crafts that was found intact. But I think this story differs in the way that it's been covered. The way that we've covered is, it's taken us 25 years, and we've really gone for documentation. We don't make any claims unless we can document it. So we have over 55,000 documents, and what we start is, and those are, oh my goodness, FBI,
CIA, Air Force, OSI, Air Force, Fifth Army Group.
I mean,
mostly FOIA documents. I mean, is that how you got? Yeah. Okay.
And what we've done is started from the beginning of the actual incident, and then followed through to the scientists that which has not been discovered before this. So there are 9 scientists that we've been able to unveil. Then we moved to the next step. We worked on walking through moving the craft of that size, so we did that. And then to why this misinformation has been put out about it, and uncovered that. And there is a whole story, you know, there's a story upon a story upon a story there, and so it's been very exciting and really been a lot of fun to do.
Right.
So I'm sorry, honey, but
No, you did it better than I would, so that's good.
So it's just very, very exciting.
Sure.
And as you go through the layers, historically, the people that have been involved, and not only people that were on the location at the time, but how it has spread and the figures have gone, and we've been able to track the impact. It's just, I tell you what, there are still times when we go in, and as you researchers know, go into sometimes into documents and libraries and have our white gloves on, and I get so excited I can't even stay quiet. I mean, we'll find something, a little piece that takes you to the next level, and it has just been a joy.
Right.
Really.
This field in particular is just so full of surprises wherever you go anyway. So if you're a research buff, this is something to get into,
you like
even
archives.
just to use your talents. Yeah, that's exactly right. So anyway, just a quick discussion question. I figure I'll throw this around and get just a few seconds from everybody. You know, again, it was a case that drug out for years and years. Everybody talks about what's behind the scenes, what's behind the curtain. This was maybe the biggest behind the curtain case that we'd seen in a long time. The UK Parliament comes out last week and decides that they are not going to extradite or allow the extradition of Gary McKinnon to the United States. McKinnon, of course, famously says that he had found these lists of off-planet resources, soldiers, Navy ships, all these other things, in the midst of what was called the largest military computer hack of all time. Now the UK has sort of backed off and said, well, maybe we're not going to turn him over for what would be obvious computer crimes, much less all this information that he's found. I'm wondering what kind of comment anybody can feel free to jump in first. You guys might have on this major decision that made it into mainstream news last week.
Well, maybe I should jump in because I honestly don't watch mainstream news, but if
you're not missing
the scenario, what you described, I guess, intrigued me because at first I was like, well, gee, I don't know, you know, it might be just another kind of internet story, you know, but then if it is the way you described it as, and that's what he claimed, you know, either, you know, there was some lawyer work done or some other aspects come into play of, you know, through whatever that caused it to suddenly drop from this to that, or there's something there. So the question is, what's there? Has he distributed it? Has he shown it? You know, is he just being arrested for it? Did he get a chance to, you know, send it to anyone before that? Or, you know, I'm
the
sure
details are interesting in the story. He claims in a couple cases his connection was so slow he wasn't able to save things. On the other hand, they said that he was hacking into these computers for nearly a full calendar year. So at some point, you'd think he's going to hit print screen or right-click save as on something. But I don't know. I don't know the details any better. The internet isn't what it was 10, 12 years ago when this actually occurred. So, but it's a real devil's in the details type case.
Well, I was just going to say, for me, there's there's so many details there that are unknown and
Yeah, I haven't followed it enough to even begin to make an intelligent.
well, there was so much information initially out, and then, you know, more recently,
Right.
you know, I haven't heard as much, and so it's hard to keep current on it.
It's interesting because of the comments that I had collected, it seemed like that might have been the end goal of a lot of the people involved. And when I say a lot of the people, I mean the government entities, to let it just drift so far into the, you know, the ether there, the abyss. That's where the story was going to end up.
But what are the politics of, I guess, Great Britain? That's a good question. Is it, oh, well, we didn't do this because, you know, that'll create unrest in a very small country? European countries are typically very small. Most countries of what people in the U.S. try to compare us to and say, oh my God, why can't we do that? You know, oh, they do that over here, you know, oh my God, it's so much better. But it's like the size of, you know, maybe Texas or like Virginia if you're lucky, or like a smaller northern state. You know,
if there was even going to
like,
be that much out.
It's like, but if he's been doing this for a year and his connection's slow, I would really question how up to date the UK is. I mean, I've had Cox.
It was the actual hacking was 10 years ago, but still,
I've had.
I mean, we were all still on 56K modems and all that garbage anyway.
I didn't have a computer back.
Well, wait, you're talking about a year ago?
10 years.
Oh, 10 years.
The actual hack was 10 years ago,
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just that he spent approximately 1 year doing it. Which, from a criminology standpoint, is not a good case for him. The fact that he's waking up every morning clearly, you know, returning to this type of activity and doing it.
But you just hit on an important point I was going to, what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know all the details of the case. I've only heard a little bit here and there, but I can tell you how I know it works. And there's one is legal and one is political. The political is, I just came back from Great Britain. Relations between our government and their government are at an all-time low because of who's in office right now.
Right.
And he has treated the British government very much like he's treated the Israeli government.
It's an excellent analogy.
And this is because of his father's association with the colonial
thing.
Yes.
Right, right.
So, first off, without knowing many of the details of the case you're talking about, politically, the British government, the United Kingdom, would be disinclined to cooperate with our legal system because of the way this present administration has treated them for the last 4 years.
I just want to throw a quick footnote in there, too. On the show that I do, I say we because I have this team of people that's really great and helping me out. We try to steer away from politics, and yet at the same time, what you're saying is extremely valid. So don't misunderstand me as being dismissive. What you're saying is extremely valid. This decision in this particular case, the timing of it, fits that pattern. This is exactly when they would have wanted to make that statement. When the UK would have been most advantageous to them.
Why I'm going to tell you
to make the decision right now.
hand.
Yeah, no, you're definitely on the right track.
Now let me ask you a question, because you obviously know a lot more about this situation than I do. I'm assuming from what you've just said here that the information this guy has is very sensitive.
It would appear that way, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all the more reason why they wouldn't want to cooperate.
Yes.
For this reason, I know people who really, really do the bread and butter work for certain agencies that get things done. What I'm getting ready to tell you, and it pertains to what you're talking about, is if you have someone who has information that is extremely sensitive, but also involves violation of law, sometimes you can't charge him and you can't bring him to court, because if you do, The rules of law allow disclosure. And some of those things cannot be disclosed in open court. And so a decision is made to do one of two things. Either not to prosecute so that it doesn't have to be released in court, or the person must be made to disappear.
This was the famous thing that happened with a previous case, exactly the same sort of setup, except that in this case the guy wanted to come out and reveal the existence of Hangar 18 and all these other things at Area 51 and Wright-Patterson. And the U.S. actually sent somebody over to be in the courtroom, and when they pulled that person up to say, okay, well, you're accusing him of exposing Hangar 18, why don't you tell us what Hangar 18 is? And the guy went, I can't do that. They said, well, then you have no case. And they let the guy go. Whoever this hacker, whoever this person, this whistleblower was, they had to let him go because you can't prosecute him for whistleblowing something that you won't even admit exists in the first place.
You know about the environmental charges from the former employees at Area 51.
Yeah, that's right.
And you notice that
same thing.
I work in the environmental field, and the environmental laws of this country are the only laws that, as an official of the U.S. government, you cannot be protected by them.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I have seen a colonel in North Carolina, a CO of a base, go to jail for violating a environmental law, and he was a pretty high official, and the highest, I've seen the highest civilian officer on a base, same thing. But in that incident with Groom Lake, it never went to court.
That's right.
The judge ruled that it could not go to court.
That's right.
And that was because they could not reveal in open court the information.
I just wanted to grab a couple of comments real quick on that stuff. I appreciate it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a point that was covered in some of the mainstream coverage as well. We'll add this on to our playlist of other stuff on the Gary McKinnon case. We'll be back in just a few minutes. This is Mike Smith, timeandspace.us.
You're listening to Time and Space on 22nd Century Radio.